Hey there Dev Squad, Virtus here and welcome back to my mech combat tutorial series. Within today's video, we're going to be taking a look at how we can set up the shop menu for our upgrades bench. So if you take a look at what's on my screen at the moment, this is what we're going to be creating for our game. We are going to have this menu from the upgrade bench that we set up yesterday, and then inside of here, we are going to be able to upgrade the player's damage, upgrade the player's health, speed, stamina, and even increase the dome size. The dome size is something that we're going to be focusing on later on in the series, but the main bit that we're going to be doing today is getting the visual aspects of this menu set up. So having said that, we're going to be bringing in all of the different images used for this menu, placing them in, scaling them, and also going over all of the different buttons that we're going to need, placing them in, setting up the appearance, and also the text. This video is going to be quite long as this is quite a complex video. Just stick with it, and by the end you are going to have a menu that is going to display on your screen that looks just like this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into Unreal Engine 4. So the first thing that you need to do is go to your Mech Assets folder, go to User Interface, and then go to your Upgrades folder. Within here, you are going to have a bunch of assets which are going to be used for this. What is also included is the upgrade reference image, so you can see exactly how this is supposed to look. So having said that, what we're going to do is focus on importing these into the engine, ready for us to start setting it up. So what we're going to do is go to our Mech Combat folder, and then go to our User Interface folder, and then we're going to right click inside of here and we're going to add a new folder, giving it the name Upgrade Screen. And then we're going to go ahead and open this. And then back with all of your UA assets, what you're going to do is drag and drop to import all of these into the game engine. Now it is going to take a couple of moments depending on the speed of your computer, but if you just drag and drop, leave all of the settings the way they are, you should now have these images. And what we can do with these images now is start moving them over into the user interface widget that is controlling this menu. So if we go ahead and press play or compile, whatever it is that you need to do to get into the game, if you press E, you can see in the last video we actually set up functionality to display a widget on the screen. That is the widget that we're going to be using for this video. So go ahead and find that. For me, it is underneath our third person BP, blueprints, and then our shop menu. Go ahead and open this up. What we're going to do from here is start breaking down this reference image that we've got, importing all of the different images that we are going to need. So first things first, delete the text that you've got there from the last video. We're not going to need that anymore. Going back to our upgrade reference image that we've got here, what you can see is first and foremost we have got a background. It's this grey box with the upgrades text on it. So we're going to start off by bringing this in. So to do that, you want to get your upgrades menu open up on your screen, and then you want to bring in an image. Now with this image, we are going to be setting this equal to our background image. So what you want to do is go to your user interface folder, go to the upgrades, and then you want to find upgrade backdrop, and this is the texture that we just imported. Going back into our shop menu, if we go ahead and set this as the image underneath the details and appearance for this image, you can see now we have got this shop menu. Now what you might want to do with this is just go ahead and scale this however you like. For me, I like the look of having this menu over in the top left just like that. Now one thing that you might want to do to make sure this looks right is just make sure your aspect ratio is staying the same. You can see the original size down at the bottom here. So now that we've got this in our screen, what we're going to be doing is setting up the sizing for this to make sure it looks correct. So this is where you want to relate back to the references image. And as you can see in here, it takes up about a third of the width of the screen, and it also goes pretty much edge to edge on the height ways. So you want to try and match that as best as you can. So give it the height that it deserves and also the width. And as you can see here, this looks good for me. Now one thing I do want to mention is when you're importing all of this stuff for the upgrade bench, you need to make sure that you are anchoring every single item in here to the same position. The position for me in this case is going to be the center of our screen. So once that's done, what we're going to do is move on to importing the next bit. So if we go back to our upgrades reference, the next most prominent part for me is going to be the character image itself. So that, if we go back into our content browser, you can find that pretty easily. This one, however, is actually not inside of the user interfaces folder. So you're going to have to import this. This is actually stored inside of our user interface folder. Go to character select, and then it is this one here that you want. Mech dude, no shadow. And then all you're going to do is just drag and drop to import that and use it in just the same way you did before. Going back to our blueprints for the shop menu, what we're going to be doing is adding in another image, and this is going to be our mech dude, no shadow, the one that we just imported. And all we're going to be doing is just dragging this and scaling it to fit our screen the way that it does in the reference. And as you can see here, this guy is just going to be hanging over the top a little bit here, so it has that sort of depthy kind of effect, and I really like that. Once again, what we're doing with this is just anchoring this to the center of our screen. So now that our character is set up, what we're going to be doing is moving on to the next bit, which is going to be the indicator telling the player how many of these little shards they have got. And the way we're going to be doing this is by adding in a text block and also an image. So let's go ahead and do just that. So we're going to add an image, which is going to be for the shard, and then we're also going to be adding in a piece of text as well. Now, for now, we're not going to be setting up the functionality to actually link this to the shard, as we're just working on the appearance, so we're going to set the text content for this to 000. For the image, this is where we are going to be setting it to our shard, or to our fragment that we've got. Now, if you go ahead and search for fragment, you'll be able to find this time fragment. And once again, all we're doing is just taking this, resizing it, and then anchoring it to the center of the screen. If you want to see where it goes on the screen, all you're doing is just consulting with this upgrades reference image here. So what you want to do is move it up directly from the corner of this little health marker that we've got here. Now, you're not going to have it in your screen at the moment, but this is roughly where you want to have it, which is just off to the right of the midway point. Now, when you're working with user interface stuff like this, you are going to notice you are going to be doing a lot of constant adjustment as you bring all of this in. So for me, for now, I'm going to place it here provisionally. And when I say provisionally, that just means it is subject to move. With our text, we're also going to be setting the anchor point of that to the center as well. Once we've done this, what we're going to be doing is adding in the character name next. And this is just an image again. So we're going to be going to our images, and then we are going to be searching for the image with the name character name hammer. And as you can see here, we have now got our hammer name text. And as you can see here, we've now got our hammer time character name. This is the name of our character. And once again, if you are going to that reference that I showed you before, you just want to make sure this is lined up in the same way. For me, the way that I set this up in the reference image that I created, we are just going to have the gems or the fragments right above our hammer time, and it's going to be in line with the replenish. So hopefully now you can start to see that our upgrade menu is coming to life. And if I was to go ahead and compile this, hit play, hit possess, and go ahead and open up this menu, you can see it on our screen here looking really, really nice. So once we've got our text for hammer time set up, what we're going to be doing is adding in the reset button. The reset button is going to be going directly above our replenish text. Now for this, we are not going to be using an image. Instead, this is where we're going to be working with a button instead, as it is going to be something which is clickable. Now notice in that reference image there, the hammer time text was actually above the replenish, so make sure that you do go ahead and move this up, and also move your character accordingly. Your hammer time text, however, should be in line with this button for reset. Now this reset button, what we're going to be doing is just going to the details panel, appearance, style, and we're going to be setting the normal image, the hovered image, and the pressed image. If you want to get those, just go back to your folder, and as you can see here, you can see we've got reset and reset active. One is going to be for hovered, one is going to be normal. So let's go ahead and set those. So the way you're going to be setting this is by going to your normal, and then with this we are going to have our reset button. We're going to be putting this into the style for the normal image. Now notice it is going to look a little bit odd at the moment, and that is simply because our margin is not what it should be. You want to set this down to 0, and then your reset button is going to look the way it should do. And then you want to go ahead and do the same thing for your pressed. You are going to be setting this to your reset image, and then the margin has got to be 0. Now for the hovered image, which is when the mouse is over this image, what you want to be doing is setting this to our reset active image. So go ahead and search for reset and choose reset active, and then set your margin down to 0 on that one as well. Anchor it to the center of the screen so it stays in line with the rest of our content, and then what we're going to do is go ahead and compile, hit play, hit possess, and then with this we're going to go up to here, and as you can see we've got our button, and when the mouse goes over it, it is going to go grey, so you've got a little bit of feedback telling the player the mouse is over that button and it is going to work. So we're going to go ahead and close this and move on to the next item in our menu. Now the next item that we're going to be putting into here is our buttons down at the bottom here for health and stamina. Now this is just the replenishing stuff. So we're going to start off with these two big buttons, and then we're going to add the progress bars and everything else. So having said that, what we're going to be doing is going back to our blueprint for that shop menu, and with this we're going to be adding in two buttons. So we've got the first button, and we've also got the second button. With the first button, we're going to be going to the normal, we're going to be setting the image, and we're going to be setting this to replenish. Margin down to 0, and then once we've done that, we're going to do the same thing for the hovered. We're going to set the margin to 0, but this time because it's the hovered, we are setting this to the active image. And then once again, on pressed again, what we're going to be doing is setting the margin down to 0, and then we are going to be setting this to our replenished image. Now what you could do is go through and change the styling stuff twice, or what you could do is just get a reference to our button here, and we could just duplicate it, and that way we have a second button. You are, however, going to have to create or move the size of this button. So we've now got our two buttons that are going to work. What you want to do is make sure the sizes are exactly the same. So get the size from the first one, so get the size X, select the second one and paste it in there. Do the same thing for the Y as well, and set this to 40 for both of these, or whatever you want to work with. And then all we're going to do is just place these in here the way we did before. Once again, we are making sure that we have anchored all of this down to the center of our screen. Before we worry about the placement too much, we are going to test to make sure these hover buttons actually work the way they should. And as you can see here, as I run my mouse over them, you can see they are using the reset image. So we actually need to make sure that reference is correct. So go to your replenish, and then instead of using the reset image, make sure you select replenish active, and then do the same thing on the second one. And little typos like that can make a big difference to your code and the way that it's going to work. And that is the really important part of game development, testing. You want to make sure any of this works before you put too much effort into it. So go ahead and press play. And then what we're going to be doing is open up the shop menu, and then as you can see here now, the buttons are looking really nice. As for the placement of these buttons, once again, all we're doing is just referring to this reference image. And you can see here, the first button, the width for that is going to be going across the text for hammer time. So it's going to be taking up exactly the width of hammer. And then you're just going to have the other one on the other side of it with a nice little margin, which is equal to the reset button. So what we're going to do is go into our shop menu and make that happen. So with this replenish button, like I saw in there, we're going to make this nice and wide, equal to the hammer time. And then once we've got this data, we can actually feed it into the second button as well, making sure you do the same for both Y and also that as well. Yeah, so you want to make sure you've got it set up on Y and X. And what you should have by the end of it is something that looks a little bit like this. So now that we've done this, what we can do is move on to the next part. The next part that we're going to be working on is the progress bars. And these progress bars are pretty straightforward. One is red and one is yellow, but there is going to be a little bit of styling to make all of this happen. So what we're going to be doing is adding in our 2 progress bars. And these progress bars, as you can see in the reference, are going to be the width of those 2 replenish buttons. So make sure you set that correct at this point. So what we're going to do is do a little bit of positioning and a little bit of scaling, and your 2 progress bars should look exactly like this. Now, in terms of the actual styling, this is where we've got to start putting the images in. We're going to have a background image, and we're also going to have a fill image. The fill image is what it's going to look like when it's completely fill, and the background image is what it's going to look like when it's empty. And luckily for this, we have actually set up some images for that, which I have provided you with. You have got health bar, and you've also got stamina bar. In addition to those bars, what you've also got is the empty versions, which is bar empty. So let's go ahead and hook that up. So I'm going to go back into my blueprint for the shop menu. I'm going to open this up, and in here, we are going to be setting the background image to bar empty, and this is just going to make it gray. And then we're going to leave all of the settings default apart from the margin so it looks right. Do the same thing for the second image. We're going to be setting this to bar empty, and then our margin is going to be 0. With our fill image, we've got our health bar and our stamina bar. So for the fill image, for the first one, this one is going to be our health bar. It is the red one. Margin on this as well, you want that to be 0. Do the same thing for the second one. The bar over here is going to be the image for our stamina bar. So go ahead and get your stamina bar. And then with this, you're going to be setting your margin down to 0 as well. Now, one thing I do want to mention is when you're testing this, you can see the color is not what you want it to be. So what you want your fill color and opacity to be is you want to be setting all of this equal to 1, 1, and 1. So that way you're not going to have any tint. And now, if I go ahead and test this progress bar, moving the percentage under the progress, you can see it is yellow and it's looking the way we want it to. Do the same thing for our health bar as well, because at the minute it is blue, so set the fill color and opacity to 1, 1, and 1, and then as you can see here, it is red and it looks exactly the same way that we want it to. Okay, so now that we've got this set up, what we're going to be doing is moving on to the next item on our character reference. The next item on our character reference is these little images here for our health and our stamina. And once again, I have provided you with all of this in your user interface widgets. Now, the way this is going to be set up is using this texture here that I have given you. You've got the health, you've got the text, and you've also got the icon on there, and you've also got the same thing for your stamina as well. So having said that, we again are going to go back into our shop menu, and then what we're going to do is add in those 2 images. So we've got one image for the health, one image for the stamina bar. So the first one, we are going to go ahead and get that from our content browser. So we're going to go to our upgrade screen. We are going to get our health bar refill or health refill, and then we're also going to get our stamina refill as well, which is just here. So in our shop menu, go ahead and open it up and set the first one under our appearance to health and then fill, or health refill rather. So health and then refill, and then all you're going to be doing is just simply stretching this out so it matches the width on there. And then what you're going to be doing is just dragging this up a little bit so it looks right, and for me, I am happy where that is there. Once we've done this, what we're going to be doing is anchoring this to the middle, and any other assets that you haven't already anchored to the middle, make sure you go ahead and do that, otherwise your UI is going to look a little bit weird. Now for this next image over here, this is going to be our stamina refill. And once we've done this, all we're going to be doing is just making sure the size of this is the same. So you can actually get the sizing from this other image that we've got here. We are then just going to paste that in. Just make sure you do the same for the X and the Y so these line up perfectly. Now what you are going to notice is at the moment it doesn't look too much like our reference image. So what we need to do is actually move this up a little bit so it does look the way it should. So we're just going to take all of our items here by holding down Control and left click, and then we're just going to drag them up because we need to leave space for the rest of the stuff in the bottom. Now what you will notice is in that reference image there was some text here saying how many coins it's going to cost you to actually refill these options. So we're going to go ahead and do just that. We're going to add 2 pieces of text. The first one, for now, we're just going to set this to 00, and we are going to place it in here. Now in terms of the styling for this, it doesn't look the same as what we've got in the image. So what we're going to have to do is set the typeface to light, just like that, and we're also going to change the font size down to 20 and just place it in. If it's still not going in correctly, you can just keep on making those little micro adjustments until you get what you're after. And for me, that looks just the way that I want it to. Once again, we're anchoring this to the center of our screen. We're then going to copy and paste this so we have another piece of text with that same styling, and as you can see here now, all of this is really starting to come together. So if I go ahead and compile, hit play, hit possess, and then press E, you can see all of this is starting to come together. Now you'll notice some of the items are not where they should be, and once again, this is simply due to styling. So go to your shop menu, and then with all of these items, if you just select them, every single item you've got here, you can then anchor all of these to that middle anchor point, and then do the same thing with anything else. And then if we go ahead and hit play, hit possess now, and press E, you can see this looks really clean, really nice, and we can really start to see this upgrade menu come together. Now, what I am going to mention at this point is this video is going to be broken up into a couple of different parts because there is so many different elements of this upgrade menu that we need to place into our scene. So having said that, this video is going to be a couple of parts. Go ahead and move to the next one, but for now, thanks for watching, stay awesome, keep creating, your boy Virtus, signing out.
This video was made possible by my supporters on Patreon. If you want more videos like this, check out my Patreon page using the link in the description. To stay up to date on new releases, make sure you follow us on social media.